Talking to the wonderful cosmologist, Dr. Jude Currivan, she said the greatest potential for a change of state is when everything is chaotic, when the old state is freed up. Because, you know, if we go back a decade, everything was much more fixed. Couple of decades, everything was much more fixed and permanent. You had a job for life and a home for life, and everything was long term and very reliable. That's all up for grabs right now as the old systems collapse. And so that, but it's also a function of very new energy coming in, very high frequency light coming in, that is destabilizing the old low frequency energy that is not based on love. You know, all of the systems that were not birthed from love are collapsing, because this very high frequency light from the, you know, the great central sun is coming in. We've also got the fact that the Earth is moving through the galactic current sheet. It only does that every 12,000 years. We're at the peak of solar cycle 25. We've got a huge amount of solar activity. And the geophysicist Stephen Burns talks about this all the time. You know, we don't just have weather now, we have space weather. We've never talked about space weather before, but now we're talking about space weather. And this particular period we're in May is super active in terms of, there was a huge solar wind over this past weekend. It was traveling at 600 kilometers a second. That's 3 times the speed of normal. You know, big geomagnetic storms, heightened seismic activity. And because you've got this layering, you know, Earth's passing through the galactic current sheet, only happens every 12,000 years. All this incredible light coming from our great central sun. The magnetic field of the Earth has dropped quite significantly. We're at the peak of this sun's activity in this particular cycle, this 11-year cycle. So the drop in the Earth's magnetic shield, we think of it like a cotton wool buffer, is allowing in a lot more solar activity than we have had before, certainly in recent times. We also have the fact that the Earth is more electrified than it has ever been before, because we've got all these satellites spinning around the Earth. They weigh, a lot of the satellites weigh about 14 kilos. They're metallic, they're highly conductive. A lot of them just kind of burn up. Some burn up in the sun, others are just dead, but still orbiting around the Earth, and there's no cosmic garbage collector up there. So all of that increased electrification, obviously, because everything is connected, every layer of our atmosphere down into the inner Earth core, everything is connected. That has ramifications, and nobody really knows what the ramifications are, because we haven't had that degree of electrification and kind of connectivity in those terms than we have right now. This is an experiment, because we haven't been in that. So you've got many, many layers of input, together with the fact you've got some very unique astrology as well. And then on top of that, you could put all the ancient prophecies of the Hopi and the Quero and the Mayans, etc. And you can add in the sort of activation of our 24th chromosome. You can add that in. So we've got you've got people like Lee Harris, wonderful Lee Harris, and Richard Rudd talking about the new human, the future human, as these changes happen in our biology as well. So at every level of being in the cosmos, you've got very rapid changes happening, and they all are affecting each other. You know, nothing is separate in this one consciousness, everything's connected. And so that's why we're in such an accelerated period of change, but also evolution, because nature is very clever. This divine intelligence, Gaia, is going through her own upgrade too, in that divine intelligence will always run ahead of the challenges and somehow create a solution for us as well. But recognize this is the degree of change and turbulence that, oh, and by the way, we're at the end of the 12,000 year Kali Yuga cycle, which apparently ended, according to Bibu Dev Misra, on the 21st of March this year. That's the end of a 12,000 year cycle as well. And we're into the beginning of an ascending phase of consciousness. And so everything is converging. You know, looking at the Yuga cycles, looking at the ancient prophecies, looking at the cosmology, looking at the solar activity, looking at the astrology, everything is converging. The channeling people who are channeling and talking about this as well, and the shift from carbon to crystalline, everything is converging in these times. It's not we're talking 10 years down the road. We are in it, right? I mean, today, this moment, we are right in it. Yeah.
Pam, I want to just poke in and around your hope a little bit, if that's okay. Not to sort of challenge disrespectfully, but this comment around divine intelligence will outstrip, will continue to continuously lead, and then we will experience just in the tail dust of that comet, if you will. Pardon the pun. I know this is an astrology podcast. I did well there. But is that a belief for you, or do you can you tell me about that? Because it's empowering but yeah.
It's certainly a belief. It's something which my good friend Janet Trelaw, who channels Zach, who's an aspect of Dwal Kul, he has talked about this a lot, Dwal Kul, in terms of, nature will always find a solution. But it's also, frankly, it's the fact that some species may be dying out, but other species are actually evolving. For instance, I don't know, about 6 months ago, a gigantic mountain range was discovered underwater off the coast of Chile, which nobody had ever known about. And what they found was there were incredible new species nobody had ever known about of sea life and plants, etc., that were just incredible. And going forwards, I mean, I haven't eaten meat for 50 years, but certainly the plant life could be incredibly nutritious for us. And because I think going forwards, we're going to eat less, but more densely packed nutrition going forwards. Another example is in Antarctica, a massive iceberg sort of fell off the ice sheet that was the size of the city of Chicago. But underneath that ice sheet, what was revealed was a whole new ecosystem again, new sea life, new plant life, etc. So in that way, we think that, and we are treating nature extremely badly. So some species are going to be tested and driven to extinction, and that is beyond heartbreaking. But because of all that's happening with the changes of the earth, the climate, landmass changes, other species are going to emerge, because there's always, with divine intelligence, this sense of life force. And that life force, that evolution is never going to end. We as souls are infinite. I mean, that's the really good news, and also the really bad news that, you never end, you go on and on. So there will always be life in some form. And the way nature works, and I believe, I hope I'm not misquoting Dr. Jude Caravan, would support this, that there is always running ahead a natural solution to whatever problem. In Chernobyl recently, the awful, that terrible explosion many years ago, there's a fungus which is thriving on the radiation. I don't know if you saw that.
I did see this, a black fungus, which is actually growing and it's processing the radiation.
Yeah, and there's a fungus that thrives on plastic, just adores a gourmet meal of microplastics and living in the ocean. So although on the one side, we're going to see great sadness when species go extinct, on the other side, I think what we have to do is feel excited and welcome in what's coming, because that, we can't keep hanging on to the old if it's not meant to continue. And I'm thinking of that particularly with systems and the way society works. I'm really in saying that, thinking about how we've got to welcome in the new and create something much more loving to every species on Earth going forwards. To every species has respect, has love, has care. No animal or any living being is hungry or suffers. There's this much greater sense. I always get this sense of ancient Lemuria, because they lived in harmony with the earth and harmony with all of the creatures, and they would never kill animals to eat or that kind of thing. They just flowed, they just flowed in harmony, and they lived much more in the light being than we currently do. But that's kind of what I think we could be partly remembering, because the way we're moving forwards as humanity is an evolution, but I think it's also an involution in terms of a remembrance of a lot of ancient wisdom.
Hey there, Inspired Evolutionary. If you absolutely loved this, well then here's a full conversation with this guest on the Inspired Evolution podcast. Check it out now.